It was a super nice Saturday afternoon in a little place called Oakwood Lane. This neighborhood was quiet and pretty. The birds were singing happy songs, tweet, tweet, tweet. The grass on everyone's lawns looked shiny and green, like it was smiling at the sun. And me, well, my name's Jake, and I'm just a regular guy. I was sitting on my porch feeling good. I had my outdoor speaker with me playing some music. It wasn't loud or crazy, just a soft, chill beat that made the sunshine feel even better. I was happy, kicking back, thinking life was perfect. But not everyone thought the same way I did. Oh no, not at all. That's when Linda Harper showed up. Around here, people called her the HOA Karen. HOA means Homeowners Association. It's like a group that makes rules for the neighborhood. And Karen, that's what people call someone who's bossy and annoying. Linda was both. She walked around like she was the queen of the whole street. She carried a clipboard in her hand like it was her special weapon. She loved telling people what to do, and she was always ready to mess up someone's day. And guess what? On this sunny Saturday, she decided it was my day to get in trouble. Linda didn't like my music, not one bit. She came stomping up to my house, her shoes making loud clacks on the sidewalk. Her eyes were squinting at me and her mouth was all tight, like she'd just eaten a sour lemon. She pointed at my speaker and said, "That noise is against the rules." I didn't think it was noise, it was just music, but Linda didn't care. She acted like my little speaker was the worst thing in the world. She wanted to ruin my fun, and she wasn't going to stop until she did. Now here's the thing, Linda thought she was so smart. She thought she knew everything about me. She thought I was just some regular guy who liked music and didn't matter much. But she was wrong. Really, really wrong. See, I had a secret, a big one. It was like a surprise hiding up my sleeve, ready to pop out when the time was right. Linda had no idea that her perfect little world, the one where she bossed everyone around, was about to turn upside down. Flip, just like that. And the best part, my secret was already starting to work, even while she was yelling at me. I bet you're curious now, huh? You're probably wondering, Jake, what's this secret? What's going to happen? Well, don't go anywhere, because this story is about to get super exciting. It's going to be wild and fun, and you won't believe what happens next. Trust me, it's good stuff. But before I tell you more, I've got a little question for you. Have you ever had a nosy neighbor like Linda? Someone who's always poking into your business or telling you what to do? Tell me about it below. I'd love to know. Okay, let's get back to that Saturday. I was still on my porch, leaning back in my chair. The sun felt warm on my face and my speaker was humming its happy little tune. It was one of those days where you just want to relax and forget about everything. I had a cold drink in my hand, lemonade, nice and sweet. The ice clinked in the glass every time I took a sip. Everything around me was calm and peaceful. The flowers in my yard were bright, red and yellow and purple. The kids down the street were riding their bikes, laughing as they zoomed by. It was like a perfect picture of a perfect day. Then Linda showed up and changed everything. She didn't knock or say hi like a normal person. Nope. She marched right up my driveway, her clipboard flapping in the wind. She had a pen stuck behind her ear and her hair was pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt. She stopped right in front of me and crossed her arms. "Jake," she said, her voice sharp like a teacher who's mad at you. "That speaker has to go right now." I looked at her and blinked. I didn't say anything at first, I just took another sip of my lemonade. But inside I was thinking, oh Linda, you have no idea what's coming. See, I wasn't scared of her, not even a little. Most people in Oakwood Lane were. They'd see Linda coming and run inside or pretend they weren't home. She was famous for writing mean notes and sticking them on people's doors. Like, "Your grass is too long," or "Your trash cans are ugly." She loved making rules and making sure everyone followed them. If you didn't, she'd glare at you until you felt small. But me, I wasn't playing her game. I knew something she didn't, and that made me feel strong. Let me tell you a bit about Oakwood Lane so you get the picture. It's a small neighborhood with neat little houses all in a row. Every house has a front yard, and most people keep them pretty with flowers or little flags. The streets are clean, and there's a park at the end with swings and a slide. It's the kind of place where people wave at each other and say hi. Everyone knows everyone, well, almost. Linda thought she ran the show here. She'd walk around with her clipboard checking things off her list. She'd measure how tall your bushes were or peek at your mailbox to see if it was up to code. She acted like it was her job to keep everything perfect. But here's the funny part, Linda wasn't perfect, not even close. She thought she was, though. She'd tell you her house was the best on the block. She had fancy curtains in her windows and a big sign that said Harper Residence on her door. She even had a little fountain in her yard that bubbled all day long. She'd point at it and say, "See, this is how you do it right." But I'd seen things, little hints that something wasn't right with Linda. I wasn't ready to tell anyone yet, but I was watching her. And that Saturday, when she came after my speaker, I knew it was time for my secret to come out. Let's rewind a tiny bit. That morning, before Linda showed up, I was just enjoying my day. I woke up early because the sun was shining through my window. I made some toast with butter and jam, yum. Then I decided to sit outside. I grabbed my speaker, plugged it in, and picked a playlist with songs I liked. They were happy songs, the kind that make you tap your foot. I wasn't trying to bother anyone. I just wanted to chill. My porch is my favorite spot. It's got a big chair and a little table where I keep my lemonade. I could see the whole street from there, and it felt like the world was mine. Then Linda ruined it. She didn't even give me a chance to explain. She just started yelling about rules and how my music was disturbing the peace. I looked around, nobody else seemed bothered. The kids on their bikes didn't care. The birds kept singing, but Linda acted like I was breaking the biggest law ever. She pulled out her phone and said, "I'm calling the police." I shrugged and said, "Okay, go ahead." She stared at me, surprised. I guess she thought I'd beg her to stop, but I didn't. I just sat there sipping my drink, waiting for the fun to start. Why was I worried? Because of my secret. I'm not going to tell you everything yet, that'd spoil the surprise, but here's a hint. I wasn't just a guy with a speaker. I had something big going on, something Linda didn't see coming. She thought she was in charge, but she was about to find out she was. Her perfect little day, her perfect little rules, they were all going to crash down. And me, I was the one making it happen, even while I sat there looking calm and cool. So picture this, me on my porch, music playing soft and low. Linda standing in front of me, red-faced and mad. The sun shining down, the birds chirping, and a big twist hiding just around the corner. What was my secret? How was it going to flip Linda's world upside down? You're going to love this, I promise. Stick with me because this story is only getting started. And hey, don't forget to tell me, have you ever had a neighbor like Linda? Someone who thinks they're the boss of everything? Let me know below, because I bet you've got some good stories too. Linda came charging up my driveway like she was the most important person in the world. Her feet hit the ground hard, thump, 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 like she was on a big mission straight from the president himself. She stopped right in front of me, her face all red and angry. She pointed at my little speaker, the one playing soft music on my porch. "Turn that noise off," she yelled, loud and sharp, like a dog barking at a stranger. She acted like my speaker was a ticking bomb, ready to blow up the whole neighborhood. "This is a violation of HOA Rule 47B, she said, shaking her finger at me, "and I will call the police." I looked at her, staying calm. I gave her a little smile, not a mean one, just a friendly one. Then I reached over and turned the music down a tiny bit, not all the way off, just lower, so it was even quieter than before. I was trying to keep things peaceful, you know. I didn't want a big fight. But Linda, oh no, she wasn't happy with that, not one bit. Her eyes got big and her mouth turned into a tight line, like she was biting down on something sour. She didn't want peace. She wanted to win. She yanked her phone out of her pocket so fast it was like magic. Her fingers punched the buttons 9-1-1 and she held it up to her ear. Then she started shouting into it, loud enough for everyone on the block to hear. "Hello, police. Yes, this is Linda Harper from Oakwood Lane. There's a man here disturbing the peace with his awful noise. You need to come right now." She kept going, her voice getting louder and louder, like she was trying to scare me. She wanted me to feel small and afraid, like she was the boss of everything. But here's the thing, Linda thought she had all the power. She thought she was in charge, like always. See, everyone in Oakwood Lane was scared of her. She was famous for being mean and bossy. She'd leave nasty notes on people's doors written in big, angry letters. Stuff like, "Your dog barks too much," or "Your flowers are ugly." She'd walk around with her clipboard, checking every little thing, making sure nobody broke her silly rules. If you did something she didn't like, she'd stare at you with her mean eyes or yell until you said sorry. Most people just gave up and did what she wanted. They didn't want the trouble. But me, I wasn't scared, not even a little. I sat there on my porch sipping my lemonade, watching her yell into her phone. The ice in my glass clinked every time I took a drink and the sun felt warm on my face. I wasn't sweating or shaking or anything. Why? Because I knew something Linda didn't. It was a secret, a big, juicy one, and it was so exciting I could hardly keep it inside. It felt like a bubble in my chest, ready to pop. I wanted to laugh or shout it out, but I didn't. I stayed quiet, keeping it all to myself for just the right moment. What was my secret? Oh, I'm not telling you yet, that ruined the fun, but I'll give you a hint. Linda was about to fall right into her own trap. Yep, she thought she was so smart, calling the police on me. She thought she'd win like she always did. But this time, nope. This time, things were going to go very, very wrong for her. And the best part, she had no idea. She was too busy being mad to see what was coming. Let's paint the picture a little more. My porch was cozy, with a big chair and a little table. My speaker sat there, humming its soft tune, "Ba-dum, ba-dum," like a happy little heartbeat. The birds were still chirping in the trees, and the air smelled like flowers and fresh grass. Down the street, some kids were riding their bikes, their laughter floating over to me. It was a perfect day, the kind where you just want to sit and smile. But Linda didn't care about that. She stood there in my driveway, her arms crossed, her phone still in her hand. She tapped her foot, tap, 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 like she couldn't wait for the police to show up and take me away. I looked at her and thought, go ahead, Linda, call whoever you want. I wasn't worried because I knew the truth. She didn't know who I really was. She thought I was just Jake, the guy with the speaker. She thought I was nobody special, just someone she could boss around. But I had a trick up my sleeve and it was already starting to work. Every second she stood there, yelling and pointing, she was getting closer to her big surprise. It was like she was walking into a net, and she didn't even see the strings. Linda kept talking, even after she hung up the phone. You're in big trouble now, Jake, she said, her voice all smug and sure. The police are coming and they'll make you stop that racket. You can't break the rules in my neighborhood. She said my like Oakwood Lane belonged to her and nobody else. She stuck her nose in the air like she was better than me. Then she pulled out her clipboard and started writing something down, her pen scratching fast across the paper. Probably another mean note to stick on my door later. I just watched her sipping my lemonade. The cool drink tasted sweet and I felt calm inside. I could have argued with her. I could have said, it's not even loud, Linda, or nobody else cares. But I didn't. I let her talk and talk because I knew it wouldn't matter soon. She was so busy being mad that she didn't notice anything else. She didn't see the way I smiled, just a little, like I had a secret joke. She didn't hear the tiny sound of sirens starting far away, wee-oo, getting closer every minute. See, Linda was used to winning. She'd been bossing people around for years. Like the time she made Mr. Thompson repaint his whole house because she didn't like the color. Or when she told Mrs. Carter her dog couldn't play in the yard anymore. Everyone just listened to her because it was easier than fighting, but I wasn't like everyone else. I wasn't going to back down or run away. I had something big planned, and Linda was about to find out what it was. The tension was building, like when you're waiting for a balloon to pop. Linda thought she was the one making things happen. She thought the police were coming to help her. She kept glaring at me, her eyes like little darts trying to poke me. You'll see, she said, you can't get away with this. I nodded, pretending to agree, but inside I was thinking, oh, Linda, you're the one who's going to see something. The air felt thick, like something big was about to happen. The kids on their bikes stopped riding and looked over at us, curious. A lady across the street peeked out her window, her curtains moving just a little. Everyone could tell Linda was mad and they were waiting to see what I'd do, but I didn't do anything, not yet. I just sat there, my speaker still playing its quiet song, my lemonade still cold in my hand. I was waiting too, but for something different, something Linda didn't expect. She kept going, her voice getting sharper. I've had enough of people like you, she said. You think you can do whatever you want, not here, not in Oakwood Lane. I make the rules and you follow them. She waved her clipboard like it was a magic wand. She thought she was so strong, so smart, but she didn't know the real story. She didn't know what I'd been up to or why I wasn't scared of her threats. The sirens were getting louder now, wee-oo, closer and closer. Linda's face lit up like she'd just won a prize. Hear that, she said, pointing down the street. That's for you, Jake, you're done. She crossed her arms again, looking so proud of herself. She thought she'd caught me like a cat catching a mouse, but I wasn't the mouse in this game. Nope, I was something else, something she'd never guess. So there we were, Linda standing tall, thinking she'd won, and me sitting easy, knowing she hadn't. The tension was huge, like a rubber band stretched tight. Something was going to snap, and it was going to be big. What was my secret? How was Linda about to step into her own trap? You'll find out soon, I promise. This is just the start, and it's going to get even better. Stick around, because you won't believe what happens next. The minutes went by, slow and steady, like a clock ticking, tick, tick, tick. Linda stood in my driveway, her arms crossed, a big smirk on her face. She looked so happy, like she'd already won a prize. She was waiting for the police to show up, roll into my yard, and take me away. She thought she'd beat me, and she couldn't wait to see it happen. She even started talking at me, her voice loud and bossy. "You need to respect the community, Jake," she said, waving her HOA handbook in the air. It was a little book full of rules, and she held it like it was a sharp sword, ready to cut me down. I just sat there on my porch, nodding my head a little. I acted like I was listening, like I cared about what she was saying. But inside, oh, I was grinning big time, not on my face, on the inside, where she couldn't see. I felt like I had a secret laugh bubbling up, but I kept it quiet. Why? Because I knew something Linda didn't, something sneaky, something I'd seen with my own eyes earlier that week, and it was all about her. Let me tell you what I saw. A few days ago, I was up late, looking out my window. It was dark outside, and most people were asleep, but not Linda. Nope. She was sneaking around her garage, moving like a shadow. She'd go in and out at really weird times, like midnight or super early in the morning, and she wasn't just walking around. She was carrying stuff, big, strange bags. They looked heavy, and she'd drag them into her garage or pull them out to her car. I didn't know what was in those bags, but it didn't look normal. It looked shady, like she was hiding something. Did I tell anyone? Nope, not a word. I didn't run to the neighbors or call anybody. I just watched. I kept my eyes open and my mouth shut, waiting to see what it all meant. Every time I saw her sneak around, I got more curious. What was Linda up to? Why was she acting so weird? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing: it wasn't good. And I knew it was going to be a big part of this story. So there I was, sitting on my porch that Saturday, with Linda yelling at me about my music. She kept going on and on, waving that handbook like it made her the queen. "You can't just play whatever you want," she said. "There are rules, Jake, rules." She tapped her foot, tap, 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 like she was counting down the seconds until the police got there. Her smirk got bigger and her eyes were shiny with excitement. She really thought she had me trapped. I took a sip of my lemonade, letting the cold, sweet taste fill my mouth. The ice clinked in the glass and I leaned back in my chair. My speaker was still playing its soft tune, ba-dum, ba-dum, quiet and happy. I looked at Linda and thought, "Keep talking, lady, you don't know what's coming." The birds were chirping, the sun was shining, and everything seemed normal. But it was. Something big was about to happen, and I could feel it in the air. Then, right on time, I heard it: sirens. That wee-oo sound, far away at first, but getting louder fast. Linda heard it too. Her head snapped up and her eyes got huge, like she'd just won the lottery. "Here they come," she shouted, her voice all high and happy. She clapped her hands together and did a little bounce, like she was dancing. "I told you, Jake, the police are here and you're in trouble now." She pointed down the street, so sure she'd called them to get me. But here's the funny part: those sirens weren't slowing down near my house. Nope, they kept going, zooming past my yard. I watched Linda's face as the sound got closer to her house instead. The smirk on her lips started to slip, like ice melting in the sun. Her eyebrows went up and her mouth opened a little. She didn't look so sure anymore. Then screech. Two police cars turned right into her driveway, tires squealing loud on the pavement. The red and blue lights flashed bright, bouncing off her fancy windows. Linda froze. Her handbook dropped a little in her hand and she blinked fast like she couldn't believe it. What's this?" she said, her voice wobbly now. She turned to me, then back to the cop cars, then to me again. "This isn't right," she yelled. "They're supposed to be here for you." But they were. The police jumped out of their cars, doors slamming, bang, bang. They didn't even look at me. They marched straight toward Linda's front door, their boots stomping loud. I leaned forward in my chair, resting my elbows on my knees. I didn't say anything yet, but I couldn't hide my grin anymore. It was small, just a little curve on my lips, but it felt good. Linda had no idea what was happening. She thought she'd called the police on me, but now they were at her house. What was going on? Oh, she was in a mess, a big messy mess, and she didn't even know how deep it went. Let's back up a bit so you can see how this all started building. That week, when I saw Linda sneaking around her garage, I didn't just watch and forget. I started paying attention. Every night, I'd peek out my window, keeping an eye on her house. Sometimes I'd see her car pull out real slow, headlights off until she got to the street. Other times, I'd hear little noises, thumps or bangs, like she was moving heavy stuff around. It was weird, and it made me wonder, what was in those bags? Why was she hiding? I didn't tell Linda I'd seen her. I didn't ask her anything. I just kept it in my head like a puzzle I was putting together. Piece by piece, it was starting to make sense. And that Saturday, when she came stomping up to my porch, I knew it was time for the puzzle to come out. She thought she was mad about my music, but I had something way bigger ready to drop. Back to the moment, the police were at her door now. One of them knocked hard, boom, boom, boom. Linda spun around, her face all confused. "Wait a minute," she shouted, running toward her house. "This is a mistake." She waved her arms like she could make them go away, but the cops didn't stop. They stood tall, hands on their belts, waiting for her to get there. The neighbors started peeking out too. Curtains moved and heads popped up over fences. Everyone wanted to know what was happening. Linda got to her porch, her voice high and squeaky. "What are you doing here?" she asked the police. "I called you. I'm the one who needs help." One of the cops looked at her, his face serious. "Ma'am," he said, "we need to talk to you about something else." Linda's mouth dropped open and she took a step back. "Something else," she said. "What do you mean?" I stayed on my porch watching it all. My heart was beating fast, not because I was scared, but because I was excited. This was it, the moment things started to unravel for Linda. She didn't know it yet, but those sneaky trips to her garage were catching up with her. And me, I'd been the one watching, waiting, and now the truth was coming out little by little. The sirens had stopped, but the lights kept flashing, red, blue, red, blue. The whole street was quiet now except for Linda's voice still yelling at the cops. "This is ridiculous," she said. "I'm the head of the HOA. You should be at his house." She pointed at me, her finger shaking. The cops didn't even turn around. They just kept talking to her low and calm while she got louder and louder. I took another sip of my lemonade, the ice almost gone now. My speaker was still playing, soft and steady. I could have jumped up and said something, but I didn't, not yet. I wanted Linda to figure it out on her own, or at least try to. She was so busy being mad at me that she didn't see the real problem. Those bags, those late nights, it was all about to spill out, and I had a front row seat. What was in those bags? Why were the cops at her house? Oh, you're going to love this next part. Linda thought she'd won, but she was so wrong. The story's heating up and the big surprise is coming soon. Stick with me because this is where it gets really good. The police cars sat in Linda's driveway, their lights flashing bright, red, blue, red, blue. The cops jumped out fast, slamming their doors bang, bang. They had their hands on their radios, talking quick and serious, like they were on a big mission. Then they marched right up to Linda's front door, their boots stomping loud on her perfect little porch. Linda was still standing in my driveway, her phone in her hand, when it happened. She was yelling at me 1 second, but then she stopped. Her phone slipped from her fingers and hit the ground, thud, like she forgot how to hold it. Her face turned white, pale as a ghost, and her eyes got huge. "Wait, what's this about?" she said, her voice all shaky and scared. She didn't sound bossy anymore. She sounded lost. She turned and ran after the cops, her feet tripping a little as she went. "Hey, hey, what are you doing?" she shouted, chasing them up to her own house. The cops didn't even look back. They just kept going, knocking on her door, boom, boom, boom. Linda looked like she didn't know what to do. She waved her arms, her clipboard still in one hand, flapping like a bird. That's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. I stood up from my chair and leaned against the railing of my porch. My speaker was still playing its soft music, ba-dum, ba-dum, nice and calm. I took a deep breath and called out to her, loud enough so she'd hear me over all the noise. "Hey, Linda," I said, my voice strong and clear. She turned her head quick, staring at me with those big, confused eyes. "Maybe you should have checked your own backyard before calling 911 on me." I gave her a little smile, not a mean one, just a knowing one. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She just blinked at me like she didn't understand. "See, here's the big secret, the one I'd been hiding all along. I wasn't just some random guy with a speaker sitting on my porch minding my own business. Nope, I was an off-duty detective. That means I'm a police officer who solves crimes, but I wasn't working right then, or so Linda thought. I'd been watching her for days, keeping my eyes open, figuring things out. And what I found, oh, it was juicy. Linda wasn't the perfect HOA lady she pretended to be. She was up to something bad, really bad. Let me spill the beans all the way. A few days ago, I'd called the police myself. Yep, I tipped them off. I told them what I'd seen, those sneaky late-night trips Linda made to her garage. She'd been hauling big bags in and out, acting all secret and strange. I'd watched her from my window, quiet as a mouse, putting the pieces together. And guess what? Those trips weren't for gardening or cleaning or anything normal. Linda was running an illegal side hustle. That means she was doing something against the law to make money on the side. What was it? She was selling stolen stuff, things like phones, jewelry, and gadgets that